The Forgotten Saga game mode for Assassin's Creed Valhalla is upon us, and while we're waiting for its release, Ubisoft has released a bunch of information about it, both through the release of the trophies for the game mode and especially through a full video from their game plan channel where they shared many more details about the game world of Niflheim, the equipment, skills and abilities, the enemies and bosses, and some honestly disappointing information about the story. So let's dive in and have a look at all the news about the Forgotten Saga game mode for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Well, as usual, let's start with the basics. Forgotten Saga is the new and free roguelike game mode that has been announced for Assassin's Creed Valhalla and that has been officially confirmed with a roadmap to be released tomorrow, August the 2nd, with the new update 1.6.0. In the game mode, we're going to play as Odin in the realm of Niflheim, where we are going to make our way through 4 areas of the map in order to face Hel, Loki's daughter. It's going to be a roguelite inspired game mode, which is going to be defined by map exploration, enemies and mini-bosses fights, a basic set of 4 equipment items, and perma-death, meaning the players will have to start over after dying, but keeping some buffs and sometimes equipment at the end of each run in order to still keep the feeling of progression and to make the experience a little easier as they try again. We now know that Ubisoft has hinted that we might need a new building to access the Niflheim map, called Everold Workshop, even though it was previously believed that Valka's Hut was the gateway because producer Jose Arraita had told Euroraptor that it was needed to access the game mode, even though the game plan video that we are going to discuss later is actually saying that in order to access Forgotten Saga, players will need to reach Asgard in the main game, which you can do only after building Valka's Hut, so maybe that's what Jose was meaning. Whatever the case, and wherever we access Niflheim, this still shows that we are going to get a new building and a new character joining Ravensthorpe. In general, we have already discussed several elements of the game mode in our past videos, both through official news and interviews and through some leaked information coming from the game files, but recently, a whole new lot of information has been released in the shape of a new set of trophies dedicated to the game mode and coming from the PlayStation Network, and also through a new video from Ubisoft's game plan channel, which is pretty much a channel where Ubisoft itself shares tips and tricks about its own games. Because there's a lot of new information, we have tried to organize it in different aspects, ranging from the game world and the things that can be found in it, to the story and the few info we have about it, the enemies and the bosses we can find, the equipment, the weapons, and more. So let's start with the game world here. It was already established that there will be a hub area from which we are going to start every run and where we are always going to end up after Odin is defeated, and now thanks to the trophies we know that this area is called Odin's Camp. It's going to be an area where you can prepare yourself, your equipment and buffs, you can dialogue with other characters and more before finally venturing again into Niflheim, and it looks like we might be doing that always by doing a leap of faith from a perch of Odin's Camp. As we already mentioned in our previous videos, Niflheim will feature 4 different regions, which the game plan video showed extensively, and thanks to the trophies we know 3 of them are going to be called Kaldstad, where Kald means cold in Old Norse, Dockerland, and Nidheim, which might be the one housing the Nidhogg dragon as we'll see, while I'd imagine the 4th one to be called Hel or Helheim, like the ruler of the entire realm of Niflheim. In these first 3 areas, players will seemingly have to reunite the dead, which is potentially going to be part of the side quests as we'll see. One of these 4 territories will have a magma-based area where we will have this icon or counter at the bottom of the screen, which is similar to the one used while being underwater, which seems to hint at Odin not being able to withstand the heat for a prolonged period of time. Man, if only there was something designed specifically for that. The green and lush area instead will be where the highly debated dragon will be located, and it has now been confirmed in multiple ways that it is indeed Nidhogg, the dragon of Norse mythology, and this area will feature some Yggdrasil roots because the dragon used to know them in Norse mythology. In standard roguelike fashion, no run will be the same and players won't be able to visit every area in one run. In this case, as it was mentioned by Andy Reloads in his videos, there will be bridges between some specific areas of the map, and once you cross them, you will not be able to backtrack and go back to the previously visited zones. Thus, according to the game plan video, the game mode will provide branching routes where the players will have to decide whether to take a detour for more loot and currency but also more enemies, or to move on to the next area area in their quest to get to the end. The map will also contain a number of secrets and secret areas for Odin and the players to find. For example, we can see Odin accessing an elevated area by unlocking a ladder or finding a secret area hidden behind an ice wall. There's a good chance that these secret areas will lead to chests or boxes as they are called in the game plan video, and once you open them, you yourself will have to choose the reward between weapons, abilities, coins to be used at merchants and more, meaning the players will be able to choose what they want to use based on their playstyle. There will also be these huge stone swords placed over what seems to be additional boxes or chests, and it's basically another object to plunder, or shall we say invoke, in order to obtain more abilities or coin, but at the cost of having to fight more enemies once we have obtained our reward. There will also be another type of chest similar to the ones used in the main game to store equipment pieces, though it's not confirmed whether they're going to be used for something else in this game mode. Judging by the game plan video, there are several new icons indicating areas to reach, like this one, which seems to point at a location where you can boost your maximum health, which is now displayed also in numbers at the bottom left side of the screen, and might be the health fountains that Andy Reloads mentioned in his videos, which might or might not have been named Egg Shrines as mentioned in the achievements for the game mode. While roaming the map, players will be able to gain both coins and gems from chests and also from defeated enemies, and will be able to spend these at a number of roaming merchants scattered across the map in exchange for gear. It seems there's a new rarity or a special type of weapons indicated by this red background, but also abilities or upgrades of abilities, in this case runes, and these are going to be the new runes, the same ones that Andy Reloads shared a few days ago from the game files, and even miscellaneous objects that aren't shown, but I'd imagine them to be consumables like arrows or similar objects. As we reported thanks to Andy Reload's leaks, Forgotten Saga will also have some side quests. I like how Odin doesn't really want to get involved and tries to slice the quest giver right away. Anyway, according to the voiceover in the game plan video, doing the side quest will lead to some more rewards, even though some of the quests won't be completable during a single run, so players will have to strategize as to how to fulfill them. Along with the previous quest giver, Odin is shown talking to 2 more quest givers and the original one again, so I guess we can expect at least 1 side quest per each of the 4 areas of the map, maybe even more. One of the side quests will seemingly involve a golden elk, which is shown in different moments of the video, or maybe I just got it wrong, and this is indeed one of the elk shrines mentioned in the achievements, which might or might not actually help us refill our health or adrenaline, as Andy Reloads hypothesized recently. Amidst the rewards that the side quests are going to provide might be the so-called Nars favors, which are medallions that we are going to discuss later that can directly influence your next run in Niflheim. And speaking of rewards, there are also going to be some main rewards that players can use outside of the game mode in the normal maps, and while those weren't addressed directly in the game plan video, Andy Reloads has shared some pictures for them in his videos, and some of them can be spotted both in the original trailer and in the game plan video. Now let's talk about gear, skills and weapons. Judging by the game plan video, it seems that we are going to be able to improve our equipment set only before venturing into Niflheim in a dedicated area of Odin's camp. We can see up to 7 outfits being displayed. I guess they will appear once you find them in Niflheim, and remember, an outfit or gear set in Forgotten Saga will be considered as a single item. Each gear set, or shall we say outfit, will be equipped with different stats and perks that correspond to various different playstyles such as stealth, melee combat and ranged, and more specifically each of them will have its own stats, 2 perks and up to 5 skills, but not all of that will be available at first. In fact, players will be able to upgrade the outfits, not enhance, as the visuals will seemingly stay the same, and they will be able to do this by consuming a new and additional currency whose icon doesn't seem to be similar to the gems and coins that we have seen earlier, which means that it seems like the game mode will bring 3 new and dedicated currencies with it, and we'll see the 4th one later, along with endless upgrades that will possibly artificially prolong the playtime, as it's been the case for most of the post-launch free releases. As for the outfits themselves, we can see the Allfather outfit, not sure if this is actually going to be its name. Then we have the Death Speaker trappings, which seems mostly oriented on stealth, with the skills oriented towards assassinations and poison. Next we have Hell's Narjarl, mostly focused on melee damage and fire damage as well. the Dwarven Defender outfit, which is kinda like the tank outfit with abilities oriented towards blocking incoming attacks, perfect parries, and passively regenerating health. And finally, at least amidst the ones that we were shown, we have the Raven's Flight set, which is the outfit slash build focused on a ranged approach. Players will be able to find these gear sets or outfits out there in the Niflheim world, and according to the game plan video, at least one of them, if not all of them, can be obtained by beating the various bosses and mini-bosses like Balufr here, which seems like a huge firewolf located in an area called Bangarder or the Boneyard. As for the weapons, we already know that they can be found in chests in Niflheim, but also from mini-bosses that seem to be indicated by a dedicated axe-like icon, and it was confirmed the weapons will be randomized in each run, so that you never know what you might find in front of you. Also, while you are in Niflheim, picking up a weapon will destroy the one you currently have, and the same goes for all the other equipment pieces, so you'll need to tread carefully with that. On the contrary, players will still get to keep the outfits slash gear sets, presumably at the level they upgraded them in their last run, so that they can find them in Odin's camp and keep upgrading them through the resources that they are going to find in the world. Ahead of each run, players will have to confirm or choose their starting gear, including the melee and ranged abilities, and also to choose their favors, or better, Nar's favors, which are these medallions that you can buy from a shop in Odin's camp run by this Nar character by consuming a dedicated currency called memories, which, as I said, brings the total to at least 4 new currencies, which I'm honestly not a fan of. These medallions, that had already been found by Andy Reload, are seemingly going to be interesting though, as they won't apply buffs, but seemingly will have a gameplay impact on your next run, like this one, Elk Tracker, which will reveal the location of all the elk shrines on the Niflheim map, or like Vivid Memory, which allows you to start with one of the abilities you had at the end of the last run. There's even a trophy which requires to buy all of Nar's favors at least once, meaning that they will not be permanent and you have to buy them again if you die in the game mode. The abilities in Forgotten Saga work pretty much as they do in the main game, and as we said, kinda like in the main game, they have to be found in the world before being used. Amidst the ones confirmed for the mode are Russian Bash, Poisonous Powder Trap, and Golden Flame, and interestingly enough, Golden Flame is an ability from the Siege of Paris DLC, which is now seemingly made available to everyone within the Niflheim map. Other standard and ranged abilities that can be encountered include ranged Fire Strike, Kick of Tear, and Poison Arrow, while it looks like the devs put a spin on some other standard abilities by making them into new ones dealing status damage, like Ice Arrow, which, well, it's pretty self-explanatory, Lighting Fury, an electric version of the Throwing Axe Fury ability, and Jotun Dive, which is basically Valkyrie Dive but also dealing ice damage and status. Players will also encounter a number of enemies and bosses in the game mode. Starting from the minions, we're going to find Jotnar, Mosspoles, and Druids too, showing that really this looks just like a mashup oriented to gameplay without a huge focus on story. Enemies seem to feature an elemental icon next to their life bar that might either indicate their elemental strength or elemental weakness. I still can't believe we're talking about this in Assassin's Creed. But it should be their weakness though, considering that the Mosspoles have the ice icon next to their life bar. Other enemies are what seem to be like human enemies possessed by energy or enhanced or whatever, like the Benetar here or the Naglasar here, and as we mentioned earlier, enemies might also spawn when pillaging items from the huge stone swords like the Skjaldmare here. I guess that's why we get the invoke prompt. In terms of bosses, we will find both mini-bosses and proper bosses throughout the map. The Skjaldmare was one of the mini-bosses, possibly along the Balufr wolf we mentioned earlier, and another wolf called Isulfur, both of which could be part of Hell's Hounds, which are several monster-like dogs bound to protect Hell. In terms of proper bosses, we have had our first look at Hjálmgunnar and his giant, spider-like, huge, spherical extension in the back. And of course we had a better look at the dragon, which as we mentioned earlier is finally confirmed as Nidhogg, and apparently it smells or has a smelly breath, I don't know. I guess we could avoid that, but nah. Nidhogg's life bar will be divided in 2 parts, while the other bars might show how many energy attacks he has left, or something else entirely. And finally, the game plan video also showcased a few bits of the final boss battle with Hel, labeled as Queen of Niflheim, who supposedly has a poison weakness. Hel will be surrounded by her Hel's hounds, and apparently I'm not too sure how to call it, leader or best of these hounds is called Garmer, and thus we are going to fight it as well while fighting Hel. And let's get to the story part. So up until now, we knew that within Forgotten Saga, Odin would venture in the realm of Niflheim to face Hel, Loki's daughter, for unknown reasons that we originally hypothesized to be connected to the secret ending of the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC, more on that in our dedicated video, but apparently in an interview with Yoraptor, producer Jose Araiza stated that playing Dawn of Ragnarok won't be necessary to understand the narrative of Forgotten Saga. The game plan video actually stated that the only requirement to play the game mode is reaching Asgard in the main game, not even completing its main arc, though I would say it's potentially recommended as you'll meet characters such as Thor and Freya, so this really is a self-conclusive expansion that does seem to not really have as many connections to the other mythology/Isu based stories that we have experienced, which also means that Forgotten Saga itself might not have that much story to begin with, or the story it holds might risk being inconsequential or not really relevant when compared with the other mythology-based stories, and we'll also have to see where this story is going to be contextualized compared to the other mythology/Isu stories, if it's going to be contextualized at all. Anyway, the game plan video states that Odin goes to Niflheim in a quest to defy fate, which prompts me to ask, again? Like, this was fresh in the main game when it was tied to the lore, it was a little repetitive in Dawn of Ragnarok, and now he has to once again defy fate? I mean, is there anything else that Odin did in his time? But anyway, Odin is going to defy fate and try and overcome Hel, but we still didn't know why up until Ubisoft released an article on the game mode yesterday stating that in the game mode Baldur will be lost to Niflheim, and Odin, mad with grief, refuses to accept that his son is dead, and so, defying fate, goes to Niflheim, I would imagine, to save him. And this, which is literally the sequel to the whole series of events shown in the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC, doesn't require the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC to be understood? I honestly have no idea what to expect. Based on what Ubisoft said, this has the potential to be the piece of post-launch content that does not take into consideration what previously happened the most, and we're talking of such contenders as Siege of Paris, so that's a high bar to challenge. According to the game plan video, each time Odin is defeated and gets back to his camp, some characters from the main game like Thor or Freya will come to confront him about his quote-unquote foolish conquest, whatever that might mean, and this, I guess, would be another incentive to die within the mode in order to get more dialogues by the various characters. In the game plan video, we can also see Hel, the ruler of Niflheim, saying that because he keeps dying and retrying, Odin is persistent in his attempts to get his son back. And apparently, it looks like Hel can control wood and roots here. We saw it in the original trailer as well, so it also looks like Hel herself, through the control of wood, is taking Odin back to his camp every time he is defeated, which is pretty kind on our very own final boss here, while we are playing as Odin in his quote-unquote foolish conquest of the area in order to get his son back, in an attempt that sounds once again pretty selfish from our main character. So that's pretty much everything we were able to gather from the latest information about Forgotten Saga before the game mode releases for everyone on August the 2nd. I'm really not interested but also worried about the story, but conversely the mechanics of the mode itself do feel quite appealing, and you can bet we're going to test it and stream it as soon as it gets released. But if you'd like to know even more about Forgotten Saga before it releases and the leaked information and visuals about it, we just might have the video for you where we covered all that, along with some more leaks about a potential future Assassin's Creed game in Japan. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.